What a pleasure for me to be back here at BYU. I'm a BYU graduate myself, so I love this campus. But it's a great honor, again, for me to have the opportunity to introduce Abdoulaye Diop, the ambassador of Mali to the United States. As a Malian, it's a pride because Mr. Ambassador has taken the diplomacy of Mali to a new height. As an ambassador, he has come to America and made tremendous changes. He wanted to promote more a decentralized diplomacy between Mali and different states of America. So he's been to many states, and Utah has very much impressed Abdoulaye Diop, and he's been here for the third time and has been trying to build a relationship, not only with Utah, but with many different states. And all of us as Malians living in the United States have been very well served by Abdoulaye Diop and has responded to our call wherever we are and whenever we call him to do so. So I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Ambassador Abdoulaye Diop.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I always like the way he introduced me because he's giving me always so much credit. And I hope my president could be here sometime to hear the way he talk about me. Maybe it will help me to get a higher position again. Huh? Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Dear faculty members, dear friends, students, ladies and gentlemen, I want first of all to introduce the delegation that is accompanying me this morning. I have my wife Linda here, and I have Mamadou Keita, who is the chairman of the Council of the Malian community living in the United States, and Mamadou Kane, who is also a member of the same board. I don't think that I have to introduce Ye, but I just have to tell you that Ye is now the honorary consul designated for Mali in Utah. We are in the process to make the formal announcement later, maybe this year. So I'm very happy to be here. This is my second time to visit the campus. I had some discussion. I have been tasked to talk about U.S.-Mali relationship. But I feel compelled not to talk only about Mali, even though my main presentation will be on Mali. I think that I am also ambassador of Africa in this country. You will allow me in the end also to share with you my passion for Africa and how I want your country and us to work together toward building a stronger relationship between Africa and the U.S., and I will tell you why. So I will just start to tell you how honored I'm happy to be, how honored and happy I am to be here today to represent my country in the U.S. and to be able to be before you to attend this important exchange of views. I want to first of all thank the university for giving me this opportunity to attend this dialogue, because I think that the education is very important. It should be the first step for us to build any partnership. I want to also express my gratitude to Mali Rising Foundation, who is doing a great job in promoting education and help in Mali, and is trying to build a stronger relationship between our country and this important state in the U.S. As I said yesterday at the visit at the UVU, I think that a diplomat is not successful until he is able to reach to the center of knowledge, particularly to students and the universities. And I want to reiterate the same sentiment here today and emphasize the need to connect to students in order to build and strengthen a bridge between the future generation of our nations. Let me start by sharing with you some basics, because I don't know exactly how far is your knowledge about Mali. I see my friend there. Thank you for receiving me in your home. I'm very happy to have you here. So I am sure many of you know more about Mali, but maybe others is not the case. But just excuse me to try to give some basics about the country to just start the thing. Mali is a country located in West Africa with over 12 million population, The country is as big as Texas and California combined. As Utah, Mali is also a landlocked country surrounded by seven neighbors, including Algeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Senegal, and Mauritania. But you are lucky because you are not a country, Utah. So you can have access to several boards, but we are a country. If you are a country and landlocked country, you need to have really a good diplomacy and friendship with all your neighbors so that you will not be just deadlocked. You have really to develop friendship with others so that you will have access to the seas and have international connection. Mali is also the country where is the famous city of Timbuktu. So that is one way also, and I invite you, all of you, to get to know what is Timbuktu and where is Timbuktu, because Timbuktu have been in the Middle Ages the center of knowledge and education, tolerance, religious tolerance, and peace keeping and peace development initiative in Africa. And we are very proud to have Timbuktu in our country, and I invite all of you to make the trip to Timbuktu, or to try to know more about Timbuktu. I'm sure we'll share with you all the materials we have about Timbuktu. And I can tell you, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. So you can reach Timbuktu after 8-hour direct flight from New York. So we have an estimated GDP of 5.8 billion in Mali, an average annual growth of 5.1%. The income per capita is about 470 US dollar. The main natural resources are gold, phosphate, kaolin, bauxite, iron, manganese. We have also launched 2 years ago a large-scale oil exploration with a dozen of major oil companies in the northern part of Mali. And we expect Mali to join the oil-producing country by 2012. This is good news for the U.S. Mali's economic situation places it among the world's 10 poorest nations. Its potential wealth lies in the mining and the production of agricultural commodities, livestock, and fish. Agricultural activities occupy 70% of Mali's labor force and provide 40% of the GDP. Cotton, gold, and livestock make up to 90% of the total export earning of Mali. Small-scale traditional family farming dominates the agricultural sector, with subsistence farming of cereals, primarily rice, sorghum, millet, and maize, on about 90% of the 1.4 million hectares available in the country. In the U.S. measurement, we may find it will be approximately 3.4 million acres that are lands available under cultivation in Mali. The high cost of oil and oil-related products, the fall in the world market of the price of the cotton and gold and corresponding loss of custom revenues put pressure on the economy and led the government to be very tight on cash disbursement in recent years. Nonetheless, a focus on quality cotton production and double-digit increases in the cereal and gold production boosted the real GDP from 2.2% in 2004 to 5.1% in 2006. Since 1991, Mali has undertaken deep economic reforms. The Malian authorities have gone a great length to improve the well-being of its population by establishing an environment that provides people with economic opportunities and means to take advantage of them. In this endeavor, our approach is to focus on areas where the country has some comparative advantages. One of these areas is agriculture, which happens to be the key in growing Malian economy. As I said, it accounts for 40% of the GDP. Mali has tremendous untapped potential in land and water resources. The Office du Niger is the oldest and one of the largest irrigated perimeters in West Africa. The bridge dam of Markala on the Niger River with the dense network of irrigation and drainage was built to develop an ambitious 1 million hectares in 50 years. Therefore, it is not a surprise that Mali has put the development of its potential in the heart of its most ambitious program designed with the Millennium Challenge Account Compact. Indeed, the government of Mali has signed a 461 million in November with the U.S. government. This compact is intended to serve as a catalyst for sustainable economic growth and poverty reduction through key infrastructures investment that capitalize a Mali major's asset. The 16,000 hectares of the Alatona irrigation project will improve rural land tenure security in Mali by allocating newly developed irrigated land to family farmers, women market gardeners, and farming company in private ownership. The second component of this program is the improvement of the Bamako-Senou International Airport, a gateway for regional and international trade. Will remove constraint to air traffic growth and increase the airport efficiency in both passenger and freight handling through airside and landside infrastructure improvements. Agriculture provides us with more than food. It's also a source of income for millions of Malians. Cotton has been one of the cornerstones of the Malian economy. Through a lot of hard work and investment, Mali cotton sector has grown to become the largest and one of the most productive in sub-Saharan Africa. Today, cotton represents up to 25% of the country's fiscal revenues and impacts the livelihood for nearly 4 million farm and family members. Today, over the past months, the entire world has faced the major food crisis. We have witnessed the average 45% cereal price rises since mid-2006. Many African countries face instability because of growing pressure among population. That was a reminder that agriculture and food security must remain the priority in development policies. The global food and fuel prices crisis present a strategic opportunity to West African countries to become more food secure, according to analysts. But they think the only way to do it is to invest at least 10% of the government revenues in the development of agriculture, but also in better exploring the country's comparative advantages in this area. We think that these investments should go mainly to producers to have better access to market with improved road and transportation infrastructures, but also to allow farmers to have access to small-scale credit scheme in order to buy fertilizer and seed. We need also to think about research institute to be more consistently funded, but also we need to invest more in and better in irrigation and water resources management. We must focus on strengthening food availability and stability over a long term. This year, after this crisis, the Malian authority have taken a bold initiative to found a 100 million initiative called Rice Initiative to eliminate country's dependence on imported rice, rice being the main food in Mali. More than that, the vision is to make Mali a rice exporter because there is a potential to achieve this goal and the market is available in the region. The expected production of rice for the campaign of 2008 and 2009 marketing year is expected to be 1.5 million tons, an increase of about 50% compared to the previous year. That will help us to cover the entire consumption of rice in Mali, which is around 900,000 tons of cotton, of rice, And we expect also to have a surplus of about 100,000 to be exported to neighboring countries. To achieve this target, the government has subsidized farmers, seeds, and equipment. Because of the expected production, post-harvest equipment will be available to group of producers to harvest and process crops. Despite this action, there is still a need to invest more in agriculture over the long term. Therefore, in addition to national policies, we must acknowledge the responsibility of the developing countries to share the scientific and technological know-how and knowledge with developing countries in order to feed the world. That's why it's important for me that academic institutions develop partnership with their counterpart in developing countries to bridge the gap in this global knowledge society. Public and private sector, bilateral and multilateral partners should play an important role in this endeavor. I'm also proud to stand before you today as ambassador of a country which has excellent relationship with the United States. I cited a few minutes ago the compact that we have signed with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, but we have also Mali and the U.S. We share common values. We both value an open and vibrant democracy. We value freedom and human rights. We believe in market economy. That's why our relationships have always been strong and is getting stronger every day. And today, they are stronger than they have ever been. The bilateral agenda focuses on effort to increase broad-based growth, improve health and education facilities, improve the sustainable use of natural resources, counter the spread of highly infectious diseases, encourage regional stability, build peacekeeping capabilities, institutionalize the respect for human rights, and strengthen democratic institutions in offering good governance. Mali supports the global war on terrorism and is working closely with the United States and other allies as a leading regional partner. In this regard, the Defense Department of the U.S. Security Assistance Program and training support help permit Mali to achieve its potential in international peacekeeping and counter-terrorism efforts. In partnership with the National Institutes of Health, NIH, Mali also hosts an important laboratory for testing new anti-malaria medicines for the use by American citizen travelers and for research that will have an Africa-wide impact. Other U.S. government agencies like the USAID, United States Development Agencies, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, the African Development Foundation play an important and significant role in fostering sustainable economic and social development. USAID program has also strengthened effort to consolidate the peace process in the northern region of Mali. Mali is also proud to be the recipient of several U.S. presidential initiatives like the PEPFAR, which is the Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, but also the African Education Initiative, and also the Presidential Initiative for Malaria. Let me also take this opportunity, beside U.S.-Mali relationship, to share with you what I think is important for both parties to work with Africa. I have been traveling in many parts of the United States. Usually vacation we receive about Africa is sometimes the people address Africa as a country. They ask us, what is your problem in the country of Africa? My first response is really Africa is not a country, but it's a continent. So to give you also a sense of understanding, Africa is a continent with the size that can comprise 3.5 the size of the U.S. We have the map here. You can just make your own comparison. If you try to travel from the southern part of Africa, which is the Cape Town in the south, to Cairo in the northern part of Africa, is 12-hour direct flight. But in the U.S., if you try to travel from one coast to another, it's 5 hours. And Africa also is a continent of 53 countries. It's a continent where you have a diversity in the population. You have whites, like everywhere in Europe and here. You have also, do you know that the biggest Arab population in the world is not in the Middle East, but it is in Africa? We have Tuareg population in Africa. We have blacks. We have really a big diversity in the population in Africa. If you take the geography of Africa, you have everything, starting from the rivers, from the desert, you have the forests. Only you take in the Democratic Republic of Congo, they provide at least a quarter of the resources, natural resources needed really to provide the world with the oxygen. It's just to give you a sense really that Africa is today about 800 million, the population of Africa, and in 15 to 20 years we expect to surpass 1 billion, the population of the world, of the population of the continent. So all this to just tell you a story, because if you try to look at the map, because it's very interesting always you try to see the maps, the development of the world started in Europe, and then it shifted to the east, to the west, sorry, in the US, and it's going back to the east. India and China are growing very fast and will be leading economies in the world. And India and China are looking toward Africa. They are the most important countries trying to invest aggressively in Africa today. Why? Because they see a potential in Africa. The potential, because the most important thing for us is not really to help African countries with the development assistance. If you want to help Africa, the most important thing really is to shift your perception of the continent. That is most important than anything you can give to the continent. Because if you change the perception, then you will see the possibilities. You won't see the continent only through the wars, because that's what is the perception. If you watch the CNN, all the major networks, HIV/AIDS, genocide, coup d'etats, all these negatives, they are there. I'm not saying that is not true. It's part of the reality. It's in Africa like it has been everywhere around the world, but it's overlooked all the progress. In the 53 countries, you have the war maybe in a handful of countries today, in which even we are working to solve those problems. I think that we are really, in Africa, out of this country, if you take 30 years to now, in Africa, most countries, the majority of African countries are moving toward democracy, good governance, building stronger economies. We are working very hard to improve the African integration, because I think that is also one of the major issues for we Africans. We have the responsibility to be able to live up to the global challenges. We need to create a global Africa. We want, at a certain point, to be able to have the United States of Africa one day. I'm not saying tomorrow. It needs some work that needs to be done among ourselves, to have regional infrastructures, to have regional program of energy, water resources management, regional markets, common currencies, common development banks, so that really we can give Africans the opportunity to increase the trade among Africans. You know, we have the data. Only the African trade, if we have now about 5% of the trade between African countries. If we are able to increase that to maybe 30%, it will create more wealth, more job, and more opportunity in Africa than anything that we can gain from the global trade. I don't mean that the global trade is not important. It's important, but we have important market to tap into among Africans themselves. I think that these are really realities. The African integration, the potential in Africa, and shifting our perception in Africa. The humanitarian assistance is very good, is useful, but it will not get at us out of the poverty. We need a paradigm shift so that you can see Africa as it is, not as it is depicted to all of you. This will open up really many opportunities for us to work together, because if you see even the map, you will see that the world we are more interlinked than we think. And we think that we have many things to share, and universities have key role to play in trying to promote such kind of understanding and mutual respect. I'm not hopeless about Africa. I think that we have possibility, we have the natural resources, but we need to develop more the human capital on the continent. Africa is the only continent where you have 50% of the population is under the age of 25. All the other continents are facing aging problems. But we just need resources to invest more in the training of this human capital so that tomorrow they can be part of the development process, the investment, they can be leaders of our country. That is the only thing we need. I think that the development of the human capital is the #1 issue that we need to address in our country. I'm getting too long, but I just want to leave some space also to questions. Maybe I'm not addressing to the issues that are most important to you. I can speak about Africa for the whole day, so I will just try to stop. I still have some notes, but I will just refrain from going into again, but I think that this is a great opportunity for me to have this dialogue with you. For those who are still interested in Mali, our website is www.maliembassy.us. www.maliembassy.us. You will find more detailed information about Mali, but I stand ready to respond to some few questions. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Cristina Petrușor. I'm from Romania, and I'm studying political science at BYU. And my question was, what do you think would be the most important area of investment right now in Africa as a continent? Which investments produce most money or help Africa and the ones countries investing most?
Okay. Should I just? Okay, I will just respond. First, it's very difficult to just speak about, as I said, to say what is the most. But if I have to respond to that, I think that the most important investment today in Africa, the #1, I have just two things. But the first thing is really to develop infrastructure in the continent. I think that it is profitable. It helps African countries to be connected, because the problem today in many countries in Africa is difficult to move from one point to another because of the lack of infrastructures. If you want, for example, to move from countries like Mali, you see on the map, to go to Sudan, sometimes you have to go to London and come back to this place. It's really a critical problem, so that we improve our airport, we try to have national roads within the countries, but we have also interconnection of roads between the region, different countries, so that we can have physical infrastructure, because we will not be able to improve the African integration if we don't have physical links. I think that if we have all the infrastructure in place, I'm sure the ingenuity of Africans will make the remaining part of the road, because we will go to know each other. It will be easy to travel for tourism, for study, for business opportunities, and we need also to remove all the roadblocks between the country. I think that the #1 issue for me is really to build infrastructures on the continent, so that we will not be deadlocked. We will have the opportunity to be linked to each other. And there is much profit for all the investors to come with Africa, because the infrastructure are very expensive. And we know many institutions like World Bank and others step back from investment in infrastructure. They're investing in other sectors, but not in infrastructure. But one of the main reasons for creating the World Bank was really to address the infrastructure issues. I know today we are realizing that it's a mistake. We have to back up. If we don't have infrastructure, we will not, because even on health issues, if we have a pregnant lady in a hospital in a village that you want to move to the closest clinics, you need to have a road. If you don't have a road, the baby and the mom may even die on the road. So to address the education issues, the health issues, the other issues, we need to have the infrastructure. I think infrastructure is the number one issue for me in Africa. So.
My name is Chris Fee. I'm a BYU graduate in Languages and International Relations. My question is, what is the viewpoint of the Malian government and the Malian people with respect to the United States government? Specifically, do they view the United States government as being respectful of Islam, of Islamic people, and of Islamic countries?
I will try to give you an answer of this. I don't think that is a deliberate policy from the U.S. government to undermine Islam or Muslim countries. I don't think so. I think that the U.S. is making great efforts, in particular if you take the case of Mali today. Since the 9/11, U.S. government, the embassy are working very closely with communities, with the imam in the remote area of Mali to try to bring understanding, friendship among only last Sunday I received a group of civil society leaders in the embassy, including a member of a grassroots organization, the imams, who traveled to the U.S. for 3 weeks. They travel in different states to make friends, to have contact with the counterpart in the U.S. to try to bridge more understanding, more knowledge of each other. I think they need to increase that effort, I think. They need programs like the Peace Corps are really relevant today to try to promote more understanding, because I think that our first enemy is the knowledge, the ignorance. Because I think that all the things that people are talking about is more about the cliches. Because even in this country, sometimes people have some perception that the Muslims are against the Americans. That's far from the truth. The Muslims are diverse. And all these terrorists that are striking against Western countries, they don't represent 2% of the Muslims. And we, as a Muslim, we think that we are the victims of the Muslim radicals who are now introducing Islam to other the people who don't know Islam. Because most of the people who hear about Islam, if it is on CNN, you have the wrong answer. Because you don't know exactly. Islam is more about peace. It's more about tolerance. It's more about understanding. If you take even the Mormon religion, the cardinal values of the Mormon religion are the same for the Muslim. So we think that we, as a Muslim, we are also victims. So we are playing the game of the terrorists if we are trying to oppose the thing to say, okay, U.S. are again Muslim, and it's far to be true. But to really address this problem, we need to promote programs that help with mutual understanding, knowing each other, working also with moderate Muslims, because these terrorists are killing more Muslims than Westerns. Do you know Algeria is a country who has most suffer from terrorism? It's a Muslim country. Pakistan is the same. Egypt is the same. So the terrorism of the radical Muslim did not begin only with Western countries, but the knowledge is there. We have to try to seek and get it.
My name is Zachary Davis, and I'm studying international relations. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
You mentioned the need for a shift in perception of Africa, and I'm wondering what governments in general do, and maybe Mali in specific do, to try and shift that perception among businesses and investors so that more investment will come. And I'm wondering if the government makes efforts to talk to big businesses to tell them that we're not always having a war, or we're not all dying of AIDS. So I guess that's my question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing is to say, countries like Mali, we have been till our democratic revolution in 1991, a democratic country. We have election. We have one of the most vibrant civil society in Africa. We have more than 3,000 civil society organizations and grassroots organizations. We have 16 political parties represented in the parliament. We have a limit of the president term. We have more than 140 different private radio station broadcasting in the country, everywhere. I think that this last year we have made tremendous progress toward transparency, open up the countries, to have a peaceful relation with our neighbors. But I think that what is missing is that the effort we are making are not known. As you know, the bad news travel faster than the good news. So if Mali is making, as I said, 5% economic growth, it's impressive. But no one knows. I think that is the thing that in Mali also we have one of the most attractive investment code in Africa. But it's not enough because it's not known. Because also it go back to the issue of perception. Because the investor will not come, even though we know the majority of African countries are peaceful, but the perception is Africa is a lost continent, is a hopeless continent, is a continent of wars. Which investor you will convince to put his money where he thinks that is a hopeless continent? That's why we need to start with this. But the second thing is really to get ourselves, our countries, to have more aggressive communication strategy. I think that the fact that I'm here today is part of this, to be able to connect to you, to explain you what is going on, and to provide you with information so that you can yourself make your research and know exactly what's going on. Everything I'm telling you, you can check and see. You have the CIA website and everything. You will find what is happening in Mali, how peaceful it is. But we have to work together. We were talking also about some programs in this country to try to educate people at the early stage, at the 3rd and 4th grade, about Africa, about African studies, so that we can raise at the very early age the interest for Africa. Regarding the investment also in Mali, we have established a board that we call the Presidential Council for Investment, headed by the president, including the key members of our government, who will sit down every quarter with our own private sector, the international private sector, the multilateral banks and agencies, to talk about the climate, the investment climate in the country, what we need to improve, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. All these are things that are efforts that need to be known so that we can try progressively to shift that perception. This perception is not true, but it's very difficult to move the cliches. Sir? I don't know. You give the mic to who you want.
My name is Jess Jones. I'm a political science student, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I have a question concerning how can we as BYU students at a young age help get involved, or are there any programs or any way that we as students can get involved to help raise awareness and strengthen relations between Mali and the United States?
I think thank you for your question. I think there are many ways to do that. One of the ways is here you have two foundations working with Mali. You have the Welesebugu Utah. You have the Mali Rising Foundation, who are on the ground here in Utah, are working great deal of work in Mali, in education, in health. If you want to be engaged or committed, you can either support or attend the event to have more information about what's going on and even to have a better understanding of the situation. The second opportunity is that you have many Malian students in BYU and other universities that who are also the source of information and exchange of knowledge about our countries. The third element would be, for me also, I encourage the university to try to promote exchange program, travel abroad programs for the students so that they will have the opportunity by themselves to see the situation in our country and to see how they can be useful. There are many ways, I think, to be useful and to help, but I think we just need to be open-minded and try to seek the information where it is.
My name is Nephi Henry. I'm a graduate, graduated in French Studies. You've talked about a number of ways that Mali has benefited and can benefit from interaction with the West and the East, from China, India, the United States, Europe, etc. Could you speak perhaps about some of the challenges or difficulties that also come from those interactions, specifically in Mali, and things that maybe we could be aware of
in our interaction with the U.S.?
With the U.S., and with other countries that are coming in and working to invest in Mali.
I see two major things in our interaction with the others. The first important mistake is most of the partners come in Mali or in other African countries trying to impose their agenda. They know exactly our problem. They know how to solve it. They have the resource to do it. We just have to follow. This is the first important mistake not to make. Not to make at all, because I think that we are a poor country. I don't like to say that, but we are a poor country. But that will not mean that we don't know our problems and we don't know how to solve it. We have a bit of knowledge about how to provide the solution, but sometimes what we are lacking is the resources. But beyond the resources, as I tell you, is the partnership, the spirit through which you will come to us to work together. Because if you come with the mindset that you know already what we need and what we have to do, we won't get anywhere. I think that the first thing is really to be humble enough to come to us to say, okay, you have a problem, we have some means, let's see how we can work together. What are your thoughts about the best strategies and vision to address those problems? I think that is the most, I think that the way you address the problem is as important as the solution you can provide to address it. I think that is important. In many of the partners, the World Bank, many partners, the tendency is to impose their own agenda. Today, we want a shift in that, to come to the country, to let the country have the responsibility in defining the vision, the strategies for the development. Of course, if you are providing a resources to someone, you have a say in it. You have a say in the way the money is spent. You need to require that this money should be expended in the most transparency way. We accept all this. We will make the improvement in our system to fight against corruption, to enhance the judiciary system, to make sure that our budgetary system is working in the most transparency way. But I think that this is some of the things that are really important to us. The second thing is really the way also this support is given. We have been for the past 50 years, receiving the development assistance, but it's not getting us anywhere. Because every year you receive from the U.S. maybe 40 million, from the European Union a small amount of money, but we are telling them the way U.S. has helped to develop Europe, we need the same kind of assistance like with the Marshall Plan. You have a significant assistance to try to create a catalytic effort so that we can develop. But if you want just to give the money, small money every year, we can spend 100 years going at the same rate. If we are agree in the vision, in the relevance of our policies, let's give us the resources that we need so that we can create a critical mass that can help us. But the way we are going, it gives to many countries a good conscience that we are helping. But you are helping in a way with no end in sight. If we really want to help, I think that this is the best way we can do it.
My name is Brent Eliason. I'm a bioinformatics major. I was wondering, what is Mali doing to try to reduce or stop human trafficking, and what can other countries in Africa or elsewhere do to help Mali?
This is an important issue in Mali, but in many countries around Mali. I think the government has made clear about our commitment to address the human trafficking, because we see ourselves as a democratic country, seriously committed to human rights, but the respect for the human right. We are working to make sure that our judicial system can sanction any abuse that we can have in this. We are working also with countries like Cote d'Ivoire, where many Malian kids are taken in the farms in Cote d'Ivoire to go and work there. It requires, of course, a collective effort to work together, because these kids are taken sometimes by their own parents to those countries, because it's difficult to just avoid that they travel outside of Mali. But we need really to have a law enforcement system that can help us really to more monitor this system. The country is politically committed to that. We are working with the people. But besides just the repression, we need also to educate people, to increase the education, to help people to understand how it is more important to have kids to go to school than to try to abuse them. It is very important for the country to try also to see with our social leader, the head of the villages, the mayors, and the other, to all work together. You know, the social and human issues are very complicated issues. You cannot just solve them with the law enforcement. You need also to promote education.
My name is Jeffrey Furlong, and I'm an international relations major as well. And President Touré helped draft the MCC Compact, and I'm interested to know why he chose to develop an industrial complex around the airport if 40% or 60% of the nation of Mali is involved in agricultural endeavors. What's the Malian government's ideal behind that?
Yeah, you know, the MCC is not only about the industrial part, which is not anymore part of the compact for many reasons that I can explain to you. The Malian compact with the MCC has three components in the beginning. The first is the Alatona irrigation program, through which we intend to develop 16,000 hectares of land in the delta of the Niger River to increase our agricultural production, productivities, to increase the land tenure, but also to have a private sector investment in the agriculture. So for us, the number one sector in the MCC is agriculture and rural development. The link is now if we were able to increase the production of agricultural goods like rice, millet, vegetables, and other crops, the major issue, as I told you, our major constraint is the landlockness of the country. We are a landlocked country. We have to increase the capacity of country to export. That's why the second component came in terms of improving the airport facilities in Bamako-Senu, because we can use the freight to export many of those goods. And the third component linked to that was to develop an industrial park in the vicinity of the airport, so that we can attract more investors. They can come in, they have all the logistics in place to establish a plant and produce the good they need. This is really the rationale in linking those three components. But for us, the number one goal in the MCC Compact was actually to target the agriculture and rural development.